Chapter 32. The Fifth Heaven and the 18th Teacher, the Silent One. Life takes a toll on all of us, and that toll is the cost which it takes to live. But what if the gift of life is proportionate to our effort? If life was an offering, then how much more would we give? By now, we were exhausted. The entire world was worn out. We'd faced unprecedented times for quite a while, yet who among us even knew what the purpose of life was all about? This world was like a labyrinth, and these days, the news was filled with wars, horror, and violence. Humanity had lost the way, and the majority of Earth lived in defiance. The minds of men and women were twisted like a knot, and I was no better than anyone else here. Yet there was a small tribe who was not like the rest, and so they called us aware. Aware of what was happening, aware of something beyond this world, aware that the earth was shifting before our very eyes, and we were aware we needed to do something quick, but who would even dare? Only the aware dared to care, for these were the souls who had been pushed to the brink of suffering and despair. Often our tribe needn't even speak a word, yet I wondered about one question. Was the situation of our world beyond repair?
This is no time for cynicism or giving in to despair. This is the time we have come to life to live, the time to work for what we truly love,
said a voice. The silence. At first I felt tension, for it was obvious that something was not quite right. The mind would race back and forth through the morning, the noon, and the night. But upon one moment, I seemed to slip beyond time, still in this body, living in the world, but the awareness began to heighten and climb. I noticed the mind started being judgmental, pushing certain thoughts away and pulling other thoughts in. But as I noticed this pattern, the awareness began to lighten, and so I decided I could release these opinions. Certain thoughts would arise, but I would watch these ideas die. Like clouds floating in the sky, I would acknowledge them and watch each thought pass on by. Ah, the silence. I don't know if I would call it peace or bliss. For whatever I did, it seemed the world was still falling apart. But in this silence I felt open. Now what was this? Still in the body, still attached to the mind. But as I began to soften, there was a mystical yet ordinary sensation I began to find. The wind would whisper, leaves upon the trees would wave. Earth was perfect just the way she was, even though I had a feeling the earth herself knew we might not be saved. Ah, the silence. Only stillness found acceptance of what it meant to be alive. No grasping or attaching, just simply aware that someday all of us would have to die. For a moment I felt fear, but then I remembered how we were aware. Why, in this moment, we were living in the here and now, and beyond this moment, we were nowhere, but somewhere, and yet everywhere. Sometimes I would feel sad. Other times I would feel anger or fear. And even if I died, I knew that in spirit I had a luminous body, and so I was right here. It was so odd to think of life beyond the body, that this form was a vehicle. I was aware I experienced life upon the earth, and so I realized that this awareness was magical and normal.
The answer has always been so simple,
said a voice. She was sitting right next to me. And who are you?
Just one of the immortals.
She winked. I had heard there were 7 of them, but how would I know for sure? No one had given me an accurate description of what they looked like, so I wasn't aware of who exactly they were.
What were you picturing?
She paused.
Did someone tell you the immortals would be masculine? Isn't that what all the religious books say about the divine plan? Oh, how on earth could an immortal be a woman? But here I am,
She said. Ah, the silence. She had dark features, and I welcomed her in. How did I get so lucky to meet the true immortal woman? It was as if she could feel my intention, and I was locked onto her eye. I saw the form of the storm lingering upon her pupil, and I swear I recognized her when I ascended through the sky. Isn't it strange how all the holy books and scriptures refer to God as a man? Yet a woman gave birth to Christ, and in every religious tradition across the earth, there are incarnations of God made flesh. But why do they seem to forget that important detail about who gave God life? She was shocked.
Very good. And I'm so thankful you paid such good attention not to listen to the ignorant ones, but rather you found your intuition,
She said. Our eyes were still locked. Ah, the silence. It's so beautiful when you notice the gap of stillness when no one talks. She stretched her eyes wide.
Not everyone is a fan of the truth, and that's why the world doesn't have peace. Because if we saw our mother as the creator of the entire universe, then we'd be aware that creation is in all people, all animals, and the earth and its trees. If we saw creation within all of us, then there'd be no reason for wars upon the earth. We'd realize how precious life truly is, and then we'd be aware how much a soul is worth. A soul is more valuable than gold, and more exquisite than any fortune. I'm afraid it can't go on like this, and something must change. This is the point of no return, the dawn of a new age,
She said. So what's wrong with our world, and how come we can't get it right? Why don't the religions just update their doctrines so that the world is aware of the spiritual creation within everyone's eyes? And it's not just about humans, but the essence of creation is in all of nature. We must honor Mother Earth, and again, it's the humans that seem to forsake her. When it comes to nature, no animal hoards more than they need. What is it with humans always wanting more? Why are so many people caught in the snares of greed?
Because when you don't know how it is, you're always trying to find it. And this endless search creates a continual cycle of suffering, because you can never quite reach it. Some people keep acquiring more and more. They're always trying to find it, because all you have to do is see how the divine is already all of it. Once you realize you have it, then all we have to do is sustain a way to live. Then the greed for more and more comes to an end. This is what we call waking up into awareness. It's realizing we don't need more, but you as yourself are enough. It's about seeing the value of life within nature, not trying to acquire and buy more and more stuff. Nowadays, humanity treats life like a commodity, like people are numbers in a machine. And that's why we need awareness, because unless we wake up, we'll never understand the true nature of our reality,
She said. But even if most of us grow to become aware, there are still leaders who dominate the world. I'm afraid all it takes is one egomaniac to drop a big bomb. And so I must ask how these ignorant humans can be overturned.
That's right. Someone's got to fight. That's why I'm the one who holds all of the divine weapons, because it's not so easy to protect life,
She said. Silent as ever, now I refused to speak. She revealed a blade on fire right beside me when I started to sweat from the heat. Her eyes grew wider, and the blade could kill me in a second.
What's the matter? Never seen a celestial weapon?
She asked. Ah, the silence. What was there to say? If I said the wrong thing to her, surely I'd be slain.
I've watched you for longer than you know. I've been there all your life as I've watched you grow. I was there before your body was born, and I've followed you through all of your past lives.
She said. But why?
Because I needed to know if I could trust you. There are only so many who are aware. It takes a lover to see God in the world, but I need a warrior who will do whatever it takes to protect life everywhere. If you really want to help the world, I'll provide everything we will need. No one can conquer an immortal. No one can defeat me,
she said. Another hand emerged from her shawl, and that's when I watched it rise from her lap. In this hand she held a lotus. Then I watched her other hand reveal a map. Confused by these hands, for a moment I was perplexed when I counted 3, then 4, 5, 6, and then 7 hands. I blinked in shock when her hands began to multiply infinitely as more and more would extend. Ah, the silence. This was remarkable. There was no way my mental thoughts could understand this, and so I rested in the awareness, because I never thought meeting an immortal was even possible. See, I'd been living in a body, and so often I'd get lost in the mind. But in this moment, in this silence, I realized I finally arrived. The more I trusted, the more she revealed. But the more I tried to force it, the more she concealed. She sat beside me for some time, and I had a million questions to ask. Like, why did she have a million arms? But instead, we sat in silence and let the time pass. Sometimes my mind would wander, and I'd get lost in a daydream. Then I'd snap back and realize that she was 10 steps ahead of me. For instance, I started thinking about dinosaurs and how they were extinct. When I snapped back to reality, she held out a hand with a meteor, fire, and sphere of ether that exploded upon the planet. Ah, the silence. It's better to be here now. But of course the mind started to wander, and where was it off to now? I started to wonder about human existence and how creation started. Then she held up 5 arms with 5 elements: ether, earth, air, water, and fire. It was clear she was reading my mind, but I wasn't exactly sure how she was tuned in.
Have you forgotten? I'm the Mother of God. I gave birth to all the living. So whatever you're thinking, I'm aware of what you're feeling. Just wait until you walk back and interact with the world. Then you'll really become aware of the powers I've been concealing,
she said. Ah, the silence. Well, eventually I'd have to get back to real life. And so I rose up from my meditative seat, and from then on, I pictured myself as a lion, where she rode upon my back for the ride. I'd carry her with me, and she'd always be waiting in the silence. And right when I got into a jam or a tricky situation, she would arise and whisper something. When I understood, she was a psychic and a clairvoyant. Not only could she hear what I was thinking, but she was also teaching me without words. Sometimes I would do the most peculiar things, and from it, the most magical situations would occur. These synchronicities were so odd and spectacular, it really blew my mind. I had no choice but to accept that humanity really wasn't in control, and so I no longer needed to believe in God, because I knew she was divine. When the mind would try to figure her out, I'd get caught up in my head. She would rarely speak in words, but I always knew exactly what she said. She was teaching me in mysterious ways, most of which I didn't quite enjoy. But I started to become aware that even if I got angry, then she would too, and her wrath would cause something to be destroyed. The more I wrestled with such an idea, the more she'd come to life. It seemed I had no choice but to adapt very quickly. Otherwise, she'd reach into my life with her infinite hands, holding all sorts of weapons, ready to fight. And I couldn't just focus on joy or peace. She seemed to be pushing me directly into situations. She'd take me from job to job, just to see the inner workings of human existence. Now I know what you may be thinking, because at first, I thought it was some sort of illness. But then one day, I was trying to sit in stillness, and that's when she showed me a vision in the silence. Once I checked the news, she was right. A city was subjected to that exact violence. She was the form of the storm, and she rarely spoke a word. I was simply a man in the middle, and I had a front row seat to everything that occurred. It's enough to make you crazy. It's enough to make a human being freak out. But the more I would resist, the more chaos would come about. And the longer it went on, the more I realized she wasn't messing around. It was like she was trying to get everyone's attention, as if she wanted to be found. Yet she had no living body, and she couldn't be terminated or killed. She was an immortal being, and she was tuning in to human will. I call her the Great Wisdom. She arises to end human suffering. She taught me to see God in existence, and she speaks in silence. To me, it seemed obvious what she was doing, but not everyone else was aware. I believed she was saving the planet from wickedness, because no one else would dare. So, you're one of the 7 immortals.
I'm not just one of them. I gave birth to the immortals. I am the creatress and the energy of the entire world. I am the rain and fire. I am the dirt and the air. I am the angel tears that made the earth aware. When you imagine the seed of existence, know that it came from my womb. I am the life giver, and I am the tomb. No one enters existence without my blessing. I am Mahashakti, the goddess of compassion. And when the world asks for help, I freely offer them my lessons. But if they do not listen, then I bring forth destruction,
said Mahashakti. Her form changed. Now her hands overtook my body. We seemed to be transported into a cremation ground, and it was filled with dead bodies. She came to stand on top of me, and I couldn't move. She had many hands, holding up every kind of weapon imaginable, and her wrath was the peak of her mood.
Go within. There you must look. Follow not the outside world, and do not solely rely on the teachings of the holy books. If you are in truth attempting to make this world a better world to live in, the most leverage you have is not on other people, it's on yourself. You make yourself a statement of love. You make yourself a statement of truth. You make yourself a statement of consciousness. That is what changes the nature of the predicament that the humans find themselves in now. If you're getting angry because the world isn't loving enough, the paradox is laughable. I think everybody recognizes that whomever wants peace better damn well be peaceful. And once you are truly a being of peace, then you can get angry. That's different. It's totally empty anger,
said Mahashakti. Her forms were changing 1,000,000 times a minute, and I could not focus on who she was. From wrathful to peaceful, from destruction to love. She was everything and anything. She was beyond what the mind could conceive. Now she held a flaming sword overhead and said,
I give all beings relief. I usher in peace. Do not fear me. I give all beings the blessings they need. Be freed of your suffering. Be free from your agony. You are the divine chariot which drives forth the great Kami,
she said as she swung the sword and sliced my neck. But to my surprise, my soul did not die. Instead, I danced over the deceased body, while a circle of light radiated around me, where 28 flames of fire came to life. Ecstatic and artistic, I became aware that all of her actions led me through divine guidance, absorbed in the grace of her energy. Ah, the silence.
When you are aware of the present moment, you are in union with all of reality,
she said. Ah, the silence. So then this is immortality?
People think I'm a ruthless demon. They think I'm out for blood. But I seek the truth. I am thirsty for love. Let me fill up your cup. You will be blessed to experience a new life within this lifetime. I bring an end to the stagnation that has been depleting your life force. You are now at home with the divine. Life as you know it will radically change. No need to force anything, for everything will come to fruition organically,
she said. She released us from our selfishness. Thank you, Goddess. Thank you for helping us. Looking at my old body, my soul had come to soar. Surely the spirit of ego was seeking protection. But now we were aware and conscious to see what my ego didn't notice before. A gateway opened, and it was welcoming us in. This was the next step in the journey, another level of heaven. Heaven wasn't a place outside that I was trying to reach. It wasn't a destination in which one goes. It is a state of awareness, and the immortal Shakti was teaching us how to let go.
There is a way of shifting consciousness so that you see you are one form of many. You understand that a starving person, or a dying person, or a frightened person is you. Then the whole ego trip of what's good for me, what do I do, or what do I need becomes less interesting, and that changes the universe.
Slowly, the suffering started to fade, and I started sharing what I learned. I could hold space for others, and so I came to serve. In time we would heal. It was clear that the suffering would find great relief. The Mother of God was bringing us into a new earth, a place where all beings are free.